There are many things that are important to learn and consider when making homemade raw diets. But what is the most important thing? Well, a big one that many raw food skeptics think is the most important is to keep yourself and your pet safe from bacteria and parasites. Yes, it's true that raw meat can sometimes harbor bacteria and parasites. However, they're actually not as concerning as you might think. One example is wild game meat. Not all wild game meat contains parasites, but if that animal happened to eat contaminated foliage, it may have parasites. But a super simple way to kill these parasites is to freeze the meat for 3 to 4 weeks. When it comes to store-bought meat, parasites aren't much of an issue because these animals are raised in a controlled environment, so they're not likely to become infected. And if you're wondering about bacteria, washing your hands thoroughly is an effective way to keep yourself safe. So yes, safe handling precautions is an important thing to remember. But is it the most important thing to remember when it comes to homemade raw diets? Well, many experienced raw feeders will actually disagree, and instead claim that the most important thing about homemade raw diets is feeding as many animal proteins as possible. But why? Well, feeding a variety of animal proteins not only makes mealtime exciting for your pet, but it also brings more nutrients to the diet, because each animal protein has its own unique nutrient profile. A few years ago, I really tried to include at least 5 animal proteins in my pets' meals because I felt it would help support their health and body better. But as time passed, I researched more about the nutrients canines and felines need, along with the nutrients different animal proteins provide. And to my surprise, I found out that most nutrients can actually be met with just 2 to 3 animal proteins. For instance, if you paired something like pork and beef parts together, it actually provides similar nutrients to a meal of chicken, turkey, duck, bison, and lamb parts. I do still like to feed multiple proteins to give my pets some ingredient variety, but this experience made me realize that feeding tons of different animal proteins was not the most important thing about homemade raw diets. After learning more about canine and feline nutrient requirements, I discovered something that was even more important. And it's actually something that pet food companies have been better at doing than many pet owners: creating complete and balanced diets. I knew that this was the reason veterinarians trusted commercial diets over homemade diets. So I thought that in order for veterinarians to trust raw food, pet owners needed to learn how to make their homemade diets complete and balanced as well. And this is what I used to believe was the most important thing about homemade raw diets. But you know what? I was wrong. And not because providing pets with the nutrients they need isn't important, because it is, but because I actually pushed pet owners away from feeding raw by drilling the importance of balancing so much. I lost sight of what actually mattered. And then I finally realized what was truly the most important thing about homemade raw diets. Just starting. You don't need to be a certified nutritionist in order to feed homemade raw meals. I wasn't. I started my raw feeding journey off only knowing about 10% of what I know now. All you need to know when starting out is the basic fundamentals, like what foods belong in a raw diet, how much you should feed your pet daily, and how to transition them to raw food properly. Yes, there is a world of knowledge out there for you to learn as you go. But don't let this hold you back from feeding your pet fresh food. Start now, even if it's just adding a little bit of raw meat to their meal every day. As long as you know the basic fundamentals of raw diets, you're good to go. And a great place to start learning these basic fundamentals is my free cheat sheet. It goes over what ingredients should be included in a raw diet and shows you how to calculate how much to feed your pet. It also shows you what nutrients your pets need and what foods provide them. To start learning the easy way, get your free cheat sheet in the link below.